America, land of the free, home of the brave. Except when it comes to the AI race. When it comes to AI, bravado turns into a slow, high-pitched whine that would make anyone on a plane yell, "Shut that baby up." America has a long history of selling you the car with a governor bolted on the engine and calling it the same model. In this case, they sold China an AI chip with the good parts turned down, just enough to clear export controls without being useful in the AI race. But all that doesn't matter anymore, because last week, a Chinese lab liberated the full potential of those GPUs, making them run twice as fast. Then, they open sourced the code so that anyone could do it. That's based AF. What I want to do today is stop covering China as some sort of a threat to America, because America is threat enough to itself right now. No, I want to take a deeper look into what these Chinese labs are actually cooking, why it can't be replicated, and why they're stacking gains right now. Let's get into it. As always, sources for this video are in the pinned comment. I always give you the sources because I don't expect you to take my word for it. So, the governed chip that America decided to let China have is the NVIDIA H20. It only exists so that NVIDIA can still sell China something. Moonshot's engineers wrote a kernel called Flash KDA tuned for their attention mechanism and benchmarked it on the exact chip. It spat tokens at 1.7 to 2.2 times faster than the standard implementation. They immediately put it on GitHub. It's like John Wick taking the pencil everyone underestimated, winning the fight, and then uploading a YouTube tutorial about it. Think about that for a second. You hand someone a ghetto-ass tool to slow them down, and they respond by publishing a manual for getting more out of it than you thought that was in there. Now anybody can use that broke-ass shit you made as if it wasn't broke. And it even works on the chips you weren't policing. All right. But you may be asking me right now, Nate, why should I care about this? Because China's been killing it. Deepseek, Moonshot, Huawei, and Zhipu are like the four horsemen of the American AI bubble apocalypse. Now let's walk this back and take it one layer at a time because I'm starting to get all hyped up. Layer 1, the algorithms. Deepseek just dropped V4 today. 2 open models under an MIT license, one at 1.6 trillion parameters and one at 284 billion. The big boy scores 80.6 on Sweebench verified, which is the highest of any open weights model and tied with Google Gemini 3.1 Pro. But really, the score is just some playground level drama that I don't even want to get into. The real lever is attention, the one thing that makes transformers expensive. Normally it costs your compute quadratically. If you double your context, you quadruple your cost. Deepseek's sparse attention turns that into simple linear math, which means that at 1 million tokens, their model uses about 10% of the memory cache the previous version needed. That means that long conversations are about 10 times cheaper to hold in memory. That eases the weight off your GPU. Moonshot did the same thing from a different direction. They redesigned attention and added something called attention residuals. They squeezed their mixture of experts down to 16 out of 896, and the result was about 2.5 times better scaling efficiency than their previous model without losing efficiency. Layer 2, the systems. This is where I gotta clear this up. China's efficiency is only half the story. Huawei builds a rack called the Cloud Matrix 384. 384 Ascend chips wired together with a fully optical mesh, 16 racks, and about 7,000 optical transceivers. It outcomputes NVIDIA's flagship rack by a landslide, 300 petaflops versus NVIDIA's 180. That's more than 2x the memory bandwidth and 3x the capacity. It comes at a cost, though. A single Ascend chip is about a third of an NVIDIA Blackwell. So they're using 5 times the chips, and it draws 560 kilowatts against NVIDIA's 145. That's 4 times the power for 1.7 times the output. So performance per watt is about 2.3 times worse. So is it really efficiency, or is it brute force? Does that really matter, though? Look at what they're trading. They can't buy the good chip, so they spend on electricity instead. And that's the problem that they solved 20 years ago with power plants. Layer 3. This is the one that really counts. NVIDIA's real moat was never the silicon. It's CUDA. 20 years of tooling and about 10 million developers who know and use it. You can build all the hardware you want, but you can't summon 10 million developers. How did China solve this? Last August, Huawei open-sourced CAN, C-A-N-N, their CUDA equivalent, and started recruiting Chinese universities and labs onto the developer community. Deepseek shipped a model with day one optimization for Ascend hardware, which means that the models are now being co-designed for domestic chips rather than ported to them afterwards. Add to that, Zhipu, Z.AI, spent hundreds of millions of yuan buying a company called Zhongqi, spun out of the Chinese Academy of Science, whose team writes compilers for Lungson, Sunway, Cambricon, and Ascend. 4 different domestic chip architectures and 1 compiler team. You see that? That's China rugging NVIDIA's dominance by building the translation layer that makes the silicon swappable. Layer 4, the concrete. Bloomberg reported that ZAI has finished and partially fired up a 1 gigawatt data center running on nothing but Chinese chips at a secret location. There's no NVIDIA to be found there. They got multiple clusters, each with over 10,000 accelerators. To put that into perspective, a gigawatt is roughly 750,000 homes worth of power. If you look at American rhetoric around Chinese AI, you get the idea that they're just following, copying papers, distilling models, shipping cheaper. But if you go and you look at the names on those papers, China published 23,695 AI papers in 2024 alone. That's more than the US, the UK, and the EU put together. 38% of the world's top AI institutions are Chinese. 156 separate Chinese institutions each published more than 50 papers. Only 4% of those papers had a Western co-author. It starts to paint a different picture, right? Literally, China doesn't need the US anymore. America is like Obadiah Stane watching Tony Stark build a better suit in a cave with a box of scraps. So what do I think is actually happening? Export controls were supposed to slow China down, and on raw compute, they did. But that caused them to have to learn to do more with less in order to be self-sufficient. When you have unlimited chips, you scale fast and sloppy. When you don't, you gotta be clever. And when you publish clever, that shit sticks. So while Elon, Sam, and Dario are busy trying to make Daddy Jensen happy and get that sweet compute allowance, Chinese companies already moved out of the house, got a job, and rented their first flat together. Is it perfect? No. Nobody gets everything right when they first move out of their parents' house. The performance per watt gap is real, and it's fugly. CANN is reportedly still less pleasant to work with than CUDA. And 10 million devs don't move because some press release told them to. Anyone saying America's cooked is trying to sell you something. Fable 5 and GPT-6 are still at the top of the leaderboards. But I keep thinking about that kernel. Somebody in Beijing looked at these handicapped chips they got sold and went full Tony Stark in that cave. Then they went and handed the results to everyone on Earth for free. They championed a win for open source out of a loss. That's a hero right there. But I don't know. Was it them being a hero? Was it just necessity? Or was it confidence? All I know is that I've been so busy watching the playground fight over in America about who's suing who and whose dad is stronger that I nearly forgot about the gains China's been making putting in all that work. Take what you can from that. I'm gonna go touch grass.